Whenever Urfus says that ape shall not kill ape, Zayas really hams it up, biting on his hand as
yes,
hard
he
as
does.
he can. Oh,
my goodness.
But we get in later minutes where Zayas has the realization that this is a falsehood. To me, when the lawgiver just appeared, I might go, hey, well, hang on.
Wait, what is this bullshit?
Whoa. That came out of nowhere. I've seen this movie. What is this shit?
So, what would you do if you slowly start walking over the side, it gets a little taller and taller, and sits down, and just goes, and starts bleeding?
But these master telepaths, and an easy special effect might have been a big explosion or anything where, and there's the lawgiver. That would have been revelatory.
So for the listening audience that you got to listen to the minute but didn't get to see it, we get some lines first with Zaya saying, "Ursus, I warned you. Look what we were faced with. I told you we should wait." And Ursus, "Brutal butchery. I swear those responsible will pay with torture and death. Zaius, if you have any pity, order your soldiers to shoot our people." Ursus, "I cannot order them to do what the lawgiver has forbidden. Ape shall not kill ape." And it's almost as if Ursus is calling the lawgiver to appear. This is in the minute when the actual lawgiver appears in the scene.
Yeah.
So whatever the humans are having them psychically project, it's now being influenced by what the apes see. So it makes
that's kind of cool.
So it makes me wonder if the entire vision is what the apes want to see and not what the humans are telling them to see.
Well, once again, that seems like something that was on the page that was not translated to the screen, and I would love to have seen it. What if it's a little cliched, and now I can't help think of Stephen Colbert when he puts God up on the ceiling.
Hey, Stephen.
But what if the lawgiver had shone in the clouds or something? You could do all kinds of things like this.
I'm thinking Monty Python with God in the clouds. Hey, I'm
true.
the lawgiver.
Yeah.
What do you guys want? Here's some more laws.
Here's my problem with the lawgiver. We've seen statues of the lawgiver.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard references to him.
But we've never had someone kneels down and prays to the lawgiver to where it becomes this.
Is that supposed to be their Christ figure?
Yes.
Is it just supposed to be a saint? Is it supposed to be a pope? What is its status relative to ours in a religious organization?
True. And how many times Sean and I've said this again? The ad nauseum things are coming out today, but we've gone on and on about it. If you're going to have a gun at the end of the movie, you must show the gun first. They've shown the lawgiver. Anybody's out there screaming at me, they've shown him. He's there, but they've not featured him. It's never been a moment where it was like, the lawgiver will lead us, and we're all in awe of it. And if you're gonna, again,
children, the lawgivers,
the monkeys, the upside down monkeys, don't pay off if you don't tell me about them beforehand to a sufficient point where I understand the jeopardy at stake. The lawgiver does not completely pay off. I do think it's a great imagery. I do think that it doesn't pay off the way they want it to without having that moment at the first.
Without setting up who the lawgiver is to everybody,
to everyone, absolutely.
Now we have the gorillas kind of suspended on an upside down cross. I didn't quite get that imagery right away. I had to kind of read it, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's what that's supposed to be. Did you guys get that sense? There was a kind of an upside down crucifixion.
I did, and what I wondered is that an overt
call back to Christianity?
Yes, or is it simply, once again, them trying to flip the table on, here's the convention you're used to, which is the cross with the cross at the top of it, we're going to do at the bottom, and we're just doing it for a different look. I wondered about that.
Yeah, because this film isn't necessarily filled with, outside of the kind of insertion of the lawgiver here suddenly, isn't really filled with a lot of religious imagery in terms of what's happening.
And we'll get some of that with the humans and whatnot, and I have notes when we get there about it. I think some things they do to flip the tables on how that works, but it's not a clear reference, but once you get it, you can't unsee it.
Exactly. Now that I've looked at it, that's what I see the entire time. Just to note, the direction for Ursus in his language was Urfus. Ursus livid with rage. When Zaya says, "Ursus, I warned you, look what we're faced with, but I told you." And Ursus, he just did not give that to me. "Brutal butchery, I swear. Who those responsible will pay heavily with torture and death at the end." And then his line even later, "I cannot order them to do what the lawgiver has forbidden. Ape shall not kill ape." He was really not selling me his emotion in the lines he was delivering.
Considering earlier, he was ready to have his people shoot the protesters, wasn't he?
And I thought the exact same thing. I thought this.
So is that going to just be ape shoulder wounds? Ape?
Maybe they're just going to wing him. I don't know, but
ape clips ape.
I thought I felt the same thing I felt with Zaius, which is it's a character betrayal, because what you've established earlier with Ursus is a willingness to do whatever it takes to accomplish his goal. Zaius had that same thing, and now that's gone. And in these moments, Ursus, I can't tell if he wants Zaius to fail, if he doesn't want to follow him, if he's like, I can't do it. I've been living by your religious rules. I'm not going to do it. However, I do want to give a very fair nod to James Gregory, who plays Ursus. I did think his use of the makeup is masterful when he does he bleeds, the lawgiver bleeds. He almost approached Roddy McDowall territory with moving his little snout. Oh my God, that was it's just masterful into the lens. But I did note that as well, specifically. Like, he is, even though the tone of his line delivery in the first couple of lines do not kind of give across the script direction of livid with rage. Right.
He seems he seems initially horrified by everything that happens, and now that Zaius is kind of affected, and this is probably the most passionate I've seen Zaius. Agreed. In any moment, because he is now face to face with his god. And it's the most passionate I've kind of seen him about anything.
And I noted that in the next minute that we finally see Zaius. So it was in the emergence of this where we begin to see him step back to be the character he was in the first film. I just find it wasn't only the acting. I think there are weird shot choices for the reaction. We talked in pre-production about how many times we see the gorilla reactions. Now, I do think you have to have them, and I think you could have probably gone further with more monkey-like things where they almost get on all fours, like, or they could be, slapping their chest like we're used to.
Start throwing poop everywhere.
I knew you were going to go to poop. Everything with Sean is poop.
The hand bite was a little much, though. Yeah.
The hand bite.
The hand bite was like, oh, I'm going to bite my hand.
Well, I felt like we were going back to silent film era where the only way you could convey anything was to overreact and bite something. But
it is it is kind of the, you're like, why is he biting? Oh, I don't know what that is, but some gigantic statue is now there.
Well, so I'm going to mention this, and I think there are moments in these 5 minutes this week where we see this again, where the editing is wrong. Because usually you can show a character react before we see what they're reacting to, but to always do it becomes, what are they doing? And so when he bit his hand, I thought, wait, the last information you gave me was upside down monkeys and flames.
Yeah.
I don't even hear a rumble. Yeah. The camera doesn't shake. To tell me something, you can show me his reaction, but you have to give me some kind of information that he's getting something new. That was the weirdness of it. It's cut together so bizarre that he's at the moment when we don't know what he's reacting to.
Yeah.
So the a couple of lines here were either omitted from the script or not actually used. When Ursa says, Zaius says, if you have any pity, order your soldiers to shoot our people. And Ursa says, I cannot order them to do what the lawgiver has forbidden. Ape shall not kill ape. I kind of want to come back to that sentence just because I find it an interesting thing for a military leader to kind of say, this is my boundary, right? But it then comes back to Ursus then demanding, prepare to attack. Zaius says, attack what? And then the lawgiver is supposed to appear, which is instead we just go straight to the hand bite and the lawgiver. Mm-hmm. The description of the lawgiver is, his feet is among the flames and his head seemingly to touch the sky. We track in and we actually hear one of the soldiers name him the lawgiver. Another ape soldier is supposed to say, he will avenge our crucified brothers. The third soldier says, vengeance. Ursus says, hold position. And then that's when he starts bleeding, and Ursus says, he bleeds, the lawgiver bleeds. So there's kind of an indication to give the audience who we're seeing,
and I thought
what's happening, and it was not there.
I think that is so missing at this moment. There are two things that defining what we're seeing, and also when the ape shall not kill ape line comes up. When is the first time that's uttered in these films? Is that the first time?
As far as I know.
And I know that, and you'll, especially in the new films, when we get there, that line's used quite often, and it's
is it really? Okay.
Well done.
It's
well done.
more thought out, yes.
This one, I felt like it should have been dropped somewhere else. Maybe what would have been fun and what you often want to do is have a character use another character's words against them. So when Zeus says, I implore your men to shoot them, maybe Zeus has already done the same. Maybe he was the one on the protesters. Ape shall not kill ape. He did it, and now Ursus goes, I cannot do it. Ape shall not kill ape. That explain his flippant attitude.
That would have been nice for him to actually center that. Otherwise, I would have thought that the two lines would have been flipped. Like I would have Ursus say, soldiers, shoot our people, and Zeus says, no, the lawgiver has forbidden. The ape shall not kill ape. It seems more like it should come from Zeus, because when Zeus says, I do not order what the lawgivers forbidden, ape shall not kill ape, it would then make sense why the lawgiver would appear, because Zeus has brought him down to scold Ursus for wanting to shoot his own people.
I could not agree more. So as I was doing research for today, and I was trying to go answer for myself how long the production of this film was, and if somebody listening to this knows what the production, and I don't mean the actual begin and end production dates, how long did they shoot it?
It had to have been at least a week.
I would love to know that, but while I'm looking through it, I started finding all the comments from anywhere from Paul Dane to even Ted Post. Ted Post said it was chaos and it was
the longest 6 days of my life.
He was like, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done, simply because it was chaos. This just feels again and again like it's so poorly thought out, because again, I really think there's some interesting things in this minute alone that if they had thought things through could have been very emotional.
Do you think it could have been a Star Wars where it was remade and editing and made into a better thing, given what they were provided with?
I really have considered, just because I'm too much of a nerd and too much into video production, re-editing it. I've thought about taking that into my machine and just seeing what I can do with it.
The fan edit for YouTube of this movie?
Yeah, I can't help it, because I keep thinking if you just did this or that, if you saw this here.
I'm just imagining you for scenes that you have to fill in something, just you standing there, hey, I'm a monkey, this is my line that fills in the information.
No, whenever I don't have anything, I'm going to cut back to the monkey in the woods with the mouth open. Oh, that'll be the go-to shot. Well, for me, I thought again, this was a rich moment that for once got me really invested in how excited I could be if this story had had a little bit more time and a little bit more love to it. I think I've voiced my frustration on it till now. This one made me love it a bit more.
This particular minute?
Yeah. I got excited by it.
After, he brings up ape shall not kill ape, and the lawgiver appears, and we have a moment where the lawgiver starts to bleed, and we see Zeus actually grab onto Ursus for just a second to grab his arms. Like, you're seeing this, right? This is happening. Do you believe what's happening? And I found the kind of, this was when Ursus proclaims he bleeds. The lawgiver bleeds. It was a really nice tight on his face. We talked about that. I found it interesting that they would use, the common things: bleed from the eyes, bleed from the mouth,
the forehead.
The bleed from the forehead. Now, what is that? Like, I went to see if I could find something out.
That could be like the crown of thorns that Christ wore. So he
is that what it meant to be? I looked up like stigmata, but you don't bleed from the forehead from a stigmata.
So that's what I.
Okay.
I have.
Let's define this. Let's define this for everyone. Sean went to a very Christian college, and therefore he is our authority on Christianity when we need the actual minutia.
I mean,
so go, Sean.
They crucified people through their wrists, not through their palms. So when people get stigmata on their palms, obviously, stigmata is not real. Period. Because
right.
Anyways, but when people bleed from their hands, they're not really bleeding. Where Christ, if he was crucified, would have been crucified through his wrist right there. Yeah. And then they put the crown of thorn on him, so he was bleeding from his forehead.
I didn't even think about the crown of thorn specifically. It might have been nice to see a couple of other places other than just one kind of random spot.
That's what I thought too.
That would have kind of brought it home a little bit more for me.
What I found odd, and I think
which I think goes back to why they had the apes crucified upside down.
Now we're bringing
Christian religiousness to the audience watching it, not necessarily the apes that are in.
I would have just liked to have seen, to Richard's point, a little more blood from the head, less from the eyes. That I get the eyes are supposed to be tears, but that's so heavy-handed. And I thought, if you're going to go for Stigmata, then